The sharp, metallic ping of the ring hitting the hardwood floor silenced the entire room. Cameron's brow furrowed in irritation. Harper, stop. Don't cause a scene. It's just a little frosting. I'll help you wash it off when we get home. You know Lexi, she used to pull way worse pranks than this. She actually held back for you. He lowered his voice, his tone shifting into a subtle warning. It took a lot to get you out here. Don't make the guys think my girlfriend can't take a joke. Lexi collapsed onto the leather sofa, her face twisting into a theatrical pout. God, Harper, it was just a joke. If you hate it that much, we'll stop, okay? You don't have to throw around the word breakup over a little cake. She looked around at the guys, her eyes wide and victimized. I told you she couldn't handle it, Cam, but you insisted she come. Look what happened. The collective gaze of the room shifted toward me, their eyes turning cold and judgmental. Lexi was the only girl in their tight-knit fraternity of friends. She was the mascot, the untouchable center of their universe. If Lexi was unhappy, the whole group scrambled to fix it. Cameron was no exception. I remember the first time I met her. She had organized a brutal game of truth or dare. While the guys were dared to do goofy, harmless things outside, my dare from Lexi was to fake an orgasm in front of a room full of strangers. When I quietly declined, stating I wasn't comfortable with that kind of humiliation, Lexi immediately burst into tears and ran out of the bar. The entire pack of guys chased after her. Cameron did too. The night that was supposed to be my welcome party ended with me sitting alone in a booth, waiting. Cameron never brought it up afterward, but from then on, unless Lexi explicitly gave the green light, I was never invited to their gatherings again. Cameron stared at me now, a deep crease between his eyes. Harper apologized to Lexi. Years ago, desperate to fit in, terrified of embarrassing Cameron in front of his friends, I would have swallowed my pride. I would have stammered out an apology before he even had to ask. But standing there now, realizing that my breaking point meant less to him than Lexi's manufactured pout, a profound clarity settled over me. From the very beginning, this relationship, my feelings, my dignity, none of it held a candle to his loyalty to the boys' club and their favorite girl. I bent down and picked up my designer coat and the handbag I had meticulously saved up for, specifically to impress his parents. I met their judgmental stares head on. Cameron, we're done. And I mean it. I turned on my heel and walked out, my frosting-splattered heels clicking unevenly against the floorboards. As the door clicked shut behind me, Lexi's teasing voice drifted through the wood. You're not gonna chase after your little lovesick puppy? Cameron scoffed, the sound sharp and dismissive. She's just throwing a tantrum. If I chase her, who's gonna comfort you? Besides, she doesn't have anyone else to lean on. She'll come around. She always does. My heart, laid bare and bleeding, was sliced open by his words. The cold wind outside felt like a mercy compared to the chill spreading in my chest. 6 years ago, on these exact front steps, Cameron had confessed his love to me, vowing that I was the only woman he would ever want. He had to work hard to break down my walls. When I was 15, both of my parents remarried and started new families. I became the awkward, leftover baggage neither of them wanted to claim. Because of that, I was terrified of romance. I was terrified of building a home, only to have it ripped away. I rejected Cameron 5 times. The turning point came when I was walking back to my lonely apartment and was followed by a mugger. Cameron appeared out of nowhere, tackling the guy to the ground. He took a knife to the arm in the process, and ended up in the ER. After the nurse finished wrapping his stitches, his eyes had grown red and wet. Harper, why do you always have to be so tough? He had whispered. Why won't you just let me protect you? In that instant, the impenetrable fortress around my heart crumbled. I thought that maybe, just maybe, loving someone this reliable, this fiercely protective, wouldn't be a mistake. That night, he brought me to this venue. When I finally said yes, the usually stoic, sophisticated man scooped me up and spun me around like an oversized kid until we were both dizzy, collapsing onto the grass. He held me tight against his chest, shielding me from the impact. Sitting on those steps, he looked up at the moon and swore that as long as he was alive, I would never be lonely. I would never be abandoned again. Yet tonight, the old wounds I had finally allowed to heal under his care were ripped open by his own hands. I let out a hollow, self-deprecating laugh. Standing on the sidewalk, I opened my email and found the corporate transfer offer to the New York headquarters, an offer set to expire in 5 days. Except, it turned out, pressing that button wasn't so hard after all. I looked up at the moon, partially obscured by thin, wispy clouds. I am not easy to win back, Cameron, and I will never need you to try again. My train to New York was booked for the afternoon of the 2nd. Time was running out. The second I got back to our shared apartment, I scrubbed the sticky, humiliating frosting from my skin and began packing. My presence in his home had always been surprisingly minimal. It only took one large suitcase and a carry-on to pack away 6 years of my life. At 3 a.m., having booked a hotel for the night, I was zipping up my coat to leave when the front door swung open. Cameron stumbled in, reeking of stale beer. He dropped a blackout drunk Lexi onto our living room sofa, then turned and shoved a plastic bag of pears into my hands. Good, you're still up. She drank way too much. Go make some hangover soup, otherwise she's gonna be puking all night. I stood perfectly still, letting the bag of fruit drop to the floor. When we first moved in together, Cameron came home trashed from a frat reunion, throwing up endlessly. My heart had ached for him, so I got up at 2 a.m. to boil him soup. But the cheap ceramic pot cracked under the heat and exploded. Boiling broth and shattered clay splattered all over my legs. The sight of my burns sobered him up instantly. He was wrecked with guilt. From that day on, he forbade me from cooking. Even when he had the flu and craved soup, he ordered takeout rather than let me near the stove. I hadn't cooked a meal in years. He even washed and sliced my fruit for me. On the kitchen door, there still hung a small, hand-painted wooden sign he had made. Danger zone. Harper, keep out. A bitter smile touched my lips. I walked over, unhooked the sign, and dropped it straight into the garbage can. I'm not obligated to take care of her. If she needs soup, order Postmates. I grabbed the handle of my suitcase and moved toward the door. He lunged forward, grabbing my wrist and pinning me back against the heavy wooden door. All right, Harper, enough. Saying it was one thing, but actually packing your bags. I told you, it was an April Fool's Fool's joke. Stop overreacting. His breath, heavy with alcohol, brushed against my neck. I know you want to get married. I want to, too. Next year. I promise we'll get married next year, okay? Once upon a time, those soft, placating words would have worked like magic. Tonight, I shoved my hands against his chest, broke his grip, and slapped him hard across the face. Listen to me, Cameron. We are broken up. I am never marrying you. 3. The sharp crack of the slap didn't just stun Cameron. It jolted Lexi awake on the sofa. She scrambled up, stumbling drunkenly across the rug, and threw her hand out, slapping my cheek with staggering force. Who the hell do you think you are? She shrieked. Nobody touches Cam. You want to break up? Fine. There are a million girls better than you. You're nothing but a placeholder. A blistering heat radiated across my cheek. Seeing red, I raised my hand to strike her back, but Cameron's hands clamped down on my wrists like iron vices. He shoved me backward to protect her. The small of my back slammed into the sharp brass doorknob, sending a sickening jolt of pain up my spine. He shielded Lexi with his body, looking at me with exhausted annoyance. She's blackout drunk. Harper, why are you picking a fight with a drunk girl? He sighed, rubbing his temples. Look, just go take a walk. Cool off. We'll talk about this tomorrow when you're being rational. I stared at him in utter disbelief. He was so incredibly detached, looking at me like I was some random, bothersome stranger. He didn't check to see if I was hurt. He turned his back to me, wrapping his arms around a sobbing Lexi, whispering soft, gentle reassurances into her hair. He saved all his tenderness for her. My fingernails bit into my palms until they bled. I grabbed my suitcase and walked out into the night. I checked into the nearest Marriott and didn't close my eyes until dawn. When I finally woke up, my phone was paralyzed by an avalanche of notifications. Aside from the group chat blowing up with prank videos, there were dozens of messages from coworkers and friends asking why I wasn't at work, fishing for gossip about a proposal. My chest tightened. I typed out a quick, blanket reply. We broke up, feeling an immense, hollow fatigue settling into my bones. The pings didn't stop. Some thought I was pulling my own April Fool's joke. Others told me to stop throwing a tantrum just because I didn't get a ring. In their eyes, Cameron was the gold standard, steady, gentle, a man who would always provide a safety net. But they didn't know the reality of that man. They didn't know that for our 4th anniversary, he had set up a romantic, candlelit proposal setting just to lower my guard so Lexi could jump out and throw a live snake on me. They didn't know that for our 5th anniversary, he got down on one knee with a rigged gag ring Lexi had bought online, which clamped down on my finger so hard I spent the night in the ER with the fire department trying to cut it off before I lost circulation. He was a safety net, alright, just not for me. For years, I had gaslit myself. I suppressed the humiliation, repeating the mantra that aside from Lexi, he treated me like a queen. But the fog had cleared. A relationship built on this kind of foundation wouldn't survive a marriage